As a way of suggesting to men that should be whatever they wanted to be. Not a person, not a real person.
But I know something of a woman in a man's profession. Yes, by God, I do know about that.
Imagine standing next to your best friend of 50 years, and not being able to see his face. That's the reality for Dame Judi Dench today. She is one of the most celebrated actresses in the world. An Oscar winner. The woman who played M in James Bond for nearly 2 decades. Calm. Commanding. Untouchable on screen. And now, at 90 years old, she says something that stops people cold. I can't recognize anybody now. Not strangers. Not friends. Not even the people closest to her. She can't see a television screen. She can't read a book. She can't walk into a room without someone guiding her, so she doesn't fall. And here's the part that really gets people: she's been living with this for over a decade. Quietly working. Quietly adapting. While the world had no idea how serious it had become. So how does a woman lose her sight, and keep acting anyway? How do you memorize a script you cannot read? How do you stand on a stage, in front of thousands of people, when you can't see a single face in the crowd? This isn't a story about an ending. It's a story about how far someone will go to hold on to the thing they love most. To understand why this matters, you have to understand who Judi Dench really is. She didn't just become famous. She became a symbol of British acting itself. Born in York, England, in 1934, she started in theatre, performing Shakespeare long before Hollywood ever knew her name. She built her reputation the hard way. Night after night on stage. Perfecting her craft in front of audiences who noticed every mistake. By the time the world caught up to her talent, she was already a legend in Britain. Then came the role that introduced her to millions more. M, the head of MI6 in the James Bond franchise. Audiences saw a woman who never seemed rattled. On screen, she was always in control. But behind that image, something had already started to change. Quietly. Slowly. In a way no one saw coming. Because while audiences were watching her play powerful, controlled characters, the real Judi Dench was already learning to live in a world that was slowly going dark. She didn't announce it. She didn't make it the center of her story. For years, she simply kept showing up, even as her own eyes began to fail her. It would take over a decade before fans truly understood what she had been carrying. It started in 2012. Judi Dench was diagnosed with age-related macular degeneration, a condition that slowly destroys the center of your vision. Not total blindness. Something stranger. Something crueler, in its own way. People with this condition can often still see shapes, outlines, light. But the center of everything, faces, words on a page, the small details up close, starts to disappear. For an actress whose entire career depended on reading scripts, recognizing castmates, reacting to the smallest flicker of expression on camera, this was something else entirely. At first, she said nothing publicly. She adapted instead. She revealed that she leaned on her daughter, her agent, her closest friends, to read her lines aloud, over and over, until she had them memorized. She said she came to enjoy it, in a strange way. Sitting back. Picturing the story in her mind instead of seeing it on the page. But there was one detail that stayed with people more than anything else. She admitted the hardest moment of her day wasn't on a film set. It wasn't on a stage. It was dinner. She said she couldn't see the face of the person sitting across the table from her. Think about that for a second. A woman who built her entire life on reading human expression, the tilt of an eyebrow, the flicker in someone's eyes. Losing the ability to see the one face right in front of her. And she kept this mostly to herself. For years. But the condition didn't stop. It got worse. And eventually, hiding it became impossible. As the years passed, her vision kept declining. She started appearing less and less on screen. Fans noticed. Headlines speculated. Was she retiring? Was something wrong? She rarely gave a straight answer. On the Graham Norton show, she admitted that learning lines had become almost impossible. She joked that what she really needed was a machine that could not only teach her the lines, but tell her where they were on the page. It sounded like a joke. But underneath it was something much more painful. Then there was the part of her life most people never even thought about. Simply walking around. She revealed she could no longer go to public events alone. Someone always had to be with her now. Guiding her. So she wouldn't walk into something. So she wouldn't fall. For a woman who had spent decades commanding stages and movie sets with total independence, that loss of control was enormous. And here's where it gets even harder to imagine. Because she couldn't clearly see faces anymore, she sometimes greeted total strangers as if she already knew them. Just to be safe. Just to be polite. Her longtime friend Ian McKellen even joked about it publicly, asking if she went around saying hello to strangers like old friends. She laughed. And admitted, sometimes, yes. It sounds funny on the surface. But underneath it is something much heavier. A woman quietly rebuilding the way she moves through the entire world. Just to function normally in public. By this point, the people closest to her already knew how serious things had become. The public was about to find out too. The turning point came during an interview with ITV News. Dench sat beside Ian McKellen, marking 50 years since the two of them performed together in Macbeth. It was meant to be a celebration of friendship and legacy. Instead, it became the moment the truth finally broke through. When asked why she hadn't been appearing on screen as often, this time, she didn't dodge the question. "I can't see anymore," she said. McKellen gently pushed back, joking that surely she could still see him sitting right there. Her answer stunned viewers. She said she could see his outline. She recognized him only because of how well she knew him, and because of the scarf he always wore. But beyond that, nothing. No faces. No detail. Just shapes in the dark. She went further. She said she could no longer watch television. She could no longer read. The condition that had started quietly in 2012, had now taken almost everything visual from her daily life. For an actress, for someone whose entire career was built on being seen, and seeing, this was the moment the curtain came down. Fans were stunned. Headlines spread instantly. People who had grown up watching her as one of cinema's most commanding presences, were now reading that she could barely recognize the people standing in front of her. It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't a betrayal. It was something more universal, and in some ways, more painful. The slow, honest reality of aging and illness, finally spoken out loud, by someone the world had always seen as untouchable. And what came next would reveal just how much she had already learned to live with it. In the months that followed, more came out. On the Fearless podcast, she spoke even more openly. She admitted she now needed someone with her at all times, simply to navigate the world safely. She said she felt nervous before going anywhere, even though she couldn't fully explain why. But there was no self-pity in how she talked about it. If anything, there was dry humor. She joked that, in a strange way, it had become easier, because now, she said, she simply pretends she has no eyesight at all. Laughing as she said it. It was a coping mechanism. A small way of taking back control over something she could never fully control. The impact on her career was real. Fewer film roles. No more theater. When asked directly if she could still perform on stage, her answer was simply, no. But she didn't disappear. She kept finding ways to work. Leaning on memory. On trusted friends reading lines aloud. On decades of muscle memory built from a lifetime in this industry. She has stayed connected to causes close to her heart, including efforts to keep Shakespeare alive in classrooms today. And here is the hardest truth of all. She has been honest that there is no cure. This condition does not reverse. It only moves forward. What started as a private diagnosis in 2012, had become, decades later, one of the most quietly powerful stories about aging that Hollywood has ever seen. Today, Judi Dench lives with significant vision loss. She can't see faces clearly. She can't read. She can't watch the films that made her famous. But she still shows up. She still speaks. She still laughs. Her story isn't about losing everything. It's about what she chose to hold on to anyway, her humor, her friendships, her identity, even as her eyesight slipped away. It's a reminder that fame protects no one from aging, illness, or loss. Not even a legend. What does she want people to know? It isn't complicated. She wants people to understand this disease. And she wants to keep living, fully, on her own terms, for as long as she possibly can. So here's the question worth sitting with. If you knew you were slowly losing your sight, would you keep doing the thing you love most, the way she did? Tell us in the comments which of her roles meant the most to you. And if you want more honest stories about the real lives behind Hollywood's biggest names, subscribe, so you never miss the next one.